My girlfriend's loyalty test with her best friend backfired. Now, she's blaming me while I'm left questioning if our relationship was ever real. I 23F recently broke up with my boyfriend, Chris 24M, and honestly, it feels like the trash took itself out. But apparently, my so-called friends think I'm the bad guy here. I mean, the mental gymnastics some people will do to defend a cheater is insane. I need Reddit to weigh in because I'm seriously starting to think I'm the only one left with any standards. Let me back up and explain. Chris and I had been dating for just over a year. On paper, he seemed perfect. Good-looking, charming, attentive, everything you could want in a boyfriend. He'd send me good morning texts every day, remembered little things I liked, and always seemed excited to introduce me to his friends and family. My friends used to say we were cheat goals, and I'll admit, I felt like I'd hit the jackpot. But here's the thing about people, they're not always what they seem. I've been burned before. My ex, a walking red flag disguised as a nice guy, cheated on me with some random girl he met at a bar. And no, I didn't find out from him. I found out from one of her friends who felt sorry for me. Ever since then, I've sworn to myself that I'll never be that girl again. The one who's blindsided. The one who's the last to know. So yeah, maybe I'm a little paranoid. But can you blame me? In my experience, guys are only as faithful as their options or lack thereof. This is where Kelsey 23F comes in. She's my best friend, and honestly, the only person I trust 100%. We've been inseparable since high school. Kelsey's gorgeous, tall, blonde, and the kind of girl who turns heads everywhere she goes. She knows she's hot, and she's not afraid to use it to her advantage. But what I love most about her is how fiercely loyal she is. She would never stab me in the back. In fact, she's the one who first suggested testing Chris. If he's as loyal as you think he is, he'll pass with flying colors, she said. And if not, better to find out now than waste any more time. She had a point. I'd rather know the truth, no matter how ugly it is, than live in blissful ignorance. So, we came up with a plan. Kelsey would start small, light flirting, compliments, the kind of stuff most guys wouldn't think twice about. If he didn't bite, great. But if he did? Well, then I'd know he wasn't the guy I thought he was. The first attempt was honestly kind of hilarious. We were all hanging out at my apartment, me, Chris, Kelsey, and a few other friends from our group. Kelsey sat next to Chris on the couch and started laying it on thick. She laughed at all his jokes, touched his arm a couple of times, and even told him, "You have such a nice smile. No wonder OP fell for you." I was watching the whole thing from across the room, trying not to laugh. Chris didn't take the bait at all, he just smiled and said, "Thanks. But I think OP's the one with the better smile." And then turned the conversation back to me. I was so relieved. For the first time, I thought, maybe I finally found a good one. But Kelsey wasn't convinced. "One test doesn't prove anything," she told me later. "You have to see how he reacts when the stakes are higher." She was right. Chris had passed the first round. But that didn't mean he was in the clear. Temptation is like pressure, it reveals a person's true character. So, we decided to try again, this time upping the ante. The second attempt happened a couple of weeks later after a party. Chris had been drinking, not drunk, just buzzed, and everyone else had either left or was passed out in the living room. Kelsey pulled him aside in the kitchen and told him she'd always thought he was cute. She even put her hand on his chest, just to see how far he'd go. And you know what he did? He flirted back. Not just a little, either. He smiled, told her she was gorgeous, and then get this, he asked for her number. Her number. When Kelsey told me, I felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. This was the guy who told me I was the best thing that ever happened to him. The guy who'd looked me in the eyes and said he wanted to build a future together. And here he was, trying to hook up with my best friend the moment my back was turned. I confronted him the next day. I didn't yell or cry, I don't give cheaters the satisfaction of seeing me upset. I just told him I knew what he'd done. And we were done. He tried to backpedal, of course. Said he was just being nice, and didn't mean anything by it. Right. Because asking for someone else's number, while you're in a relationship, is totally normal behavior. I told him I wasn't interested in his excuses and walked out. I thought that would be the end of it. But no. The real drama started when I told my friends what happened. I expected them to have my back. After all, Chris had literally proven he couldn't be trusted. But instead, they turned on me. Ashley 21F, who I've always suspected has a secret crush on Chris, said I set him up to fail, and that the whole thing was toxic. Tyler 25M, who loves to play devil's advocate, said I should have just trusted Chris, and that the test was manipulative. Are you kidding me? First of all, if Chris was really loyal, he wouldn't have failed the test. Period. And second, how is it manipulative to want proof that your relationship is solid? Last time I checked, trust is earned. I refuse to be one of those girls who ignores red flags just because they're inconvenient. If I hadn't tested him, I'd still be in a relationship with a guy who clearly can't keep his promises. The group is basically split down the middle now. Half of them agree with me and think I did the right thing. The other half are acting like I'm some kind of monster for exposing Chris for what he really is. Kelsey has been my rock through all of this. She says the ones who are mad at me are just projecting their own insecurities. They're jealous because they don't have the guts to hold their partners to the same standards, she told me, and honestly, she's probably right. So, Reddit. What do you think? Am I the arsehole for testing my boyfriend's loyalty? Or are my friends just bitter that I refuse to settle for mediocrity? Comments. Comment 1 YTA. You and your bestie Kelsey sound like the narcissistic villains of a high school drama. Testing your boyfriend's loyalty? Are you serious? Who died and made you the queen of the relationship Olympics? You didn't just test him. You actively created a situation to manipulate and tempt him into failing. That's not love. That's psychopathy. Relationships are built on trust, not some elaborate Hunger Games scenario where your friend plays the seductress. Here's the thing. You were the problem. Not Chris. You sabotaged your own relationship because of your insecurity. And now you're mad it blew up in your face. Grow up. Comment 2 YTA. A massive one. And let me add. You're exhausting. You basically turned your boyfriend into a lab rat for your own insecurity experiment. You didn't want a loyal boyfriend, you wanted a circus act where he jumps through flaming hoops to prove his worthiness to you. And Kelsey? Oh, she's just as bad. She sounds like the type who gets off on stirring SHT and then acting like she's the hero for helping. The fact that you two think this was okay shows you have zero respect for anyone but yourselves. The real reason your friends are pissed isn't jealousy. It's that they can't stand your toxic, manipulative BS. Newsflash. You played a stupid game. And now you're upset because you got stupid results. Good riddance, poor Chris. Comment 3 YTA. You sound like a complete narcissist who's watched too many reality TV shows. Testing your boyfriend's loyalty with your hot best friend. Are you joking? What's next? Installing hidden cameras to make sure he's faithful. Here's a thought. If you couldn't trust him after a year, you shouldn't have been in the relationship to begin with. And let's not even get started on Kelsey. She's not your ride or die. She's your enabler and honestly, probably loves the drama of sabotaging your relationships while pretending to help. You deserve to be single because no one deserves to put up with this level of insecurity and manipulation. Honestly, I hope Chris dodges every bullet your future has in store. YTA, plain and simple. Boyfriend's response post. Hey Reddit, Chris here, the failed boyfriend, from this insane loyalty test post. A friend of my XOP sent me the link to her post earlier this week, and I honestly couldn't believe what I was reading. To say the least, it was surreal to watch her paint this whole situation as though she's the victim, when the reality of our relationship was anything but. I wasn't planning to say anything. But since her post is already out there and my friends keep insisting that I share my side of the story, I figured I'd do just that. I want to start by saying that, yes, I screwed up. I take full accountability for what happened. Flirting back with her best friend Kelsey was absolutely wrong, and I wish I hadn't done it. I wasn't drunk, but I was buzzed and not thinking clearly. When Kelsey came onto me, it caught me completely off guard. She was being really forward, touching my chest, leaning in close, calling me hot. I felt awkward as hell, and in the moment, I tried to play along lightly because I didn't want to make things even weirder or ruder. But I shouldn't have. The moment I flirted back or asked for her number, I crossed a line, and I'm genuinely sorry for that. But here's the thing. My mistake didn't happen in a vacuum. My ex didn't just test my loyalty out of nowhere. It wasn't the first time she'd done something manipulative, and honestly, it wasn't even close to the worst. Our entire relationship was built on her constantly trying to prove she was in control of me, of the relationship, of everything. From day one, it felt like I was auditioning to meet her impossibly high standards, and no matter what I did, it was never enough. Let me give you a few examples of what life was like dating her. She controlled every aspect of my social life. She always insisted on being there whenever I hung out with my friends, even when it was supposed to be a guy's night. If she couldn't come, she'd blow up my phone the entire time, sending check-in texts every hour, asking me for proof of who I was with and what we were doing. I had to send selfies, pictures of the group, and even videos at one point because she didn't trust the angles of the photos I was sending. She had a list of rules for our relationship. I couldn't follow random girls on Instagram, even if I'd known them since high school. I wasn't allowed to go to parties without her. If I didn't answer her texts within 10 minutes, she'd accuse me of hiding something. Once, she got upset because a cashier smiled at me when we were out shopping. A cashier, doing her job. She kept tabs on everything. She went through my phone regularly, just to make sure I wasn't hiding anything. I didn't have anything to hide, so I let her do it. But looking back, I can see how toxic that was. There was no privacy in our relationship. She even tried to guilt me into giving her the passwords to my email and social media accounts. I held my ground on that one, and she accused me of secretly cheating, because, apparently, if you have nothing to hide, you have nothing to fear. She constantly compared me to her ex. I can't even count how many times she brought up how her ex cheated on her, and how she'd never let herself be that girl again. She framed everything in our relationship like it was some grand test of my loyalty, and she always acted like I was one mistake away from being just like him. No matter how much I tried to prove myself, it was like she was actively looking for reasons to doubt me. Now let's talk about this whole loyalty test situation. I didn't know it at the time, but this wasn't some spontaneous thing Kelsey cooked up, it was premeditated. They planned it together, probably laughing the whole time about how clever they thought they were. Kelsey didn't just flirt a little. She went full-on seductive. I mean, she told me she'd always thought I was cute, touched me constantly, and leaned in like she was about to kiss me. It wasn't subtle. And yeah, I fumbled. I flirted back. I shouldn't have, and I hate that I did. But looking back, I realized that no matter how I handled it, X was never going to be satisfied. If I'd shut Kelsey down completely like I did during the first attempt they conveniently left out most of the details about, she would have just tested me again, upping the stakes each time until she got the proof she was looking for. I wasn't in a relationship with a person. I was in a relationship with someone who saw me as a project to manage and control. When she broke up with me, I didn't even argue. I was too exhausted to fight back. I apologized for flirting with Kelsey, admitted I was wrong, and just let her walk away. At the time, I felt like I deserved to be dumped. But then one of her friends shouted out to Ashley. The only sane person in that group showed me her Reddit post, and holy hell, seeing the comments felt like validation for every crappy thing I'd put up with. Y'all absolutely tore her apart. Hundreds of YTAs calling her out for her manipulative behavior, her insecurities, and her toxic need for control. It made me realize that the problem wasn't just me, it was her. I'd been staying quiet because I didn't want to add fuel to the fire. But seeing her twist the story to make herself the victim pushed me over the edge. Here's the truth. I shouldn't have flirted with Kelsey. That's on me, and I'll own it. But the breakup? That's on her. She didn't trust me, she didn't respect me, and she sure as hell didn't love me in a healthy way. Her post proves that. The fact that she had to go to Reddit for validation, instead of self-reflecting on her behavior, says it all. I haven't spoken to her since the breakup, and I don't plan to. I'm done jumping through hoops for someone who will never be satisfied. To everyone who saw through her BS and called her out, thank you. Seriously. Reading your comments helped me realize I wasn't crazy for feeling trapped in that relationship. TLDR. I messed up by flirting with her friend. But my ex was controlling and manipulative throughout our entire relationship. Her loyalty test was just the final straw. And Reddit proved I wasn't the only one who saw through her toxic behavior.